Philippians 2:12-18. And this is what it reads. It says, "Therefore, my dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. And then I will be able to boast on the day of Christ that I did not run or labor in vain. But even if I am being poured out like a drink offering on the sacrifice and service coming from your faith, I am glad and rejoice with all of you. So you too should be glad and rejoice with me." Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for tonight. I thank you for these people that you brought out tonight. And I pray that the word that you put on my heart, that it will change them. I pray that it will permeate their spirit as well as their soul. I pray that they will get something from it intellectually and spiritually. I pray that you will be with me as I can't do this on my own, and I need you to influence everything that I say and every step that I take as I do this. I thank you for this, and I pray that you will be with me in this entire process. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so to start in verse 13, if you can bring that back up for me, David. Verse 13, it says, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose." And in this saying this, he has created a purpose. He has created and written a purpose for us. He has a plan and a future for us, as it says in Jeremiah 29:11, a verse that people always love to quote. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." I want to lay out the steps and the plan to reach that purpose that God has created for each and every one of us. These 3 steps, as I said earlier, are preparation, presence, and then purpose. The first point that I had tonight is your preparation is your prayer. Without prayer, the situations we encounter become overwhelming. There's a reason that we have intercessory prayer, and there's a reason we have prayer mothers such as my mom, or if you go to church here, Miss Ruby. And there's a reason that we have that prayer is so important. The actual volume of your prayer and the sincerity of your prayer dictates what will happen as you go out of your prayer and as you go on your daily walk and you go through daily life. Depending on how hard you pray and the amount that you pray, that will prepare you, or you will be unprepared for the things that are going to come afterwards. And after this, the next step is presence. We speak constantly about presence, but I think that we need to add flesh to what presence truly is and what it does. The second point that I have, there's a difference between presence and being present. Presence alters things, while being present just causes appearance with little shift. People can walk into a room and be present, but you feel a difference when someone walks into a room and has presence. That's why the altar is called the altar, because at that place, God alters your soul. So the presence that somebody has when they walk into a room changes you. You can just be present and you can just be sitting in your chair and nothing happens. We all know you can go into class and you just be sitting there and you don't take any notes, you don't receive anything the teacher's saying, then you go and you fail the test because you weren't actually in that moment. But when somebody has presence and they walk into a room, you receive something from it and it changes you as you walk out of that room. That's the difference between God's presence and just being present. The soul creates connection through presence, while the mind creates connection through information. That's the next point that I had. The reason that that's important is because the presence of God alters and connects with the soul, which influences the mind, your speech, your actions, and your overall life. Your prayer leads you into the presence, but you need to prepare even to walk in the presence. To be able to walk in the presence, you have to prepare for it. You have to pray and you have to praise in order to walk in the presence. The reason that we have to praise in spirit and in truth is because when you walk into the presence, it says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess to the name of the Lord. So when you're in that presence and you have that heavy glory on you, and I don't know if you've seen, but the last time I spoke, I ended up crying afterwards because the presence was so strong and the glory was so strong on me afterwards. That's what presence does, but you can't encounter that, you can't really receive that if you haven't prayed and you haven't praised beforehand. The next point that I have says the presence changes people, and the way that you prepare for the presence can dictate what you receive from it. As I said, the way that you pray, the way that you praise before you go into something dictates the outcome of it. So I don't understand why we go into church and when we leave, we wonder why we're the same as when we enter. But upon our entrance, we had no preparation and lack expectation for an encounter with an omnipotent and omniscient God. Why do we go into church and we didn't prepare to go into church? Not trying to be whatever, we just chilled all week. We went to parties, we did whatever, and we weren't prepared for when we actually got up on Sunday morning. And we wonder why we walk out of church the exact same way that we came into it. We didn't put any effort into it. It's just like a relationship, it's just like playing sports, it's just like school. If you don't put any effort into it, you won't receive anything from it. It's the same thing with the Spirit, it's the same thing with the presence. If you go into the presence without putting anything into it, you'll never receive anything from it. I feel like that's why a lot of the time we see people and they go to church, they say that they spend time with God, they claim to be Christians, but they don't bear any fruit. Because they may claim to be Christians, but they don't live like Christians. In order for us to live like Christians and say that we're Christians, we have to prepare for the presence before we even enter. Our preparation in prayer will create expectation for us to carry into our encounter. The Holy Spirit, in praying in that heavenly language, speaking in tongues, is the fire that ignites the altar in the midst of the encounter. That's why I said that you have to pray and you have to praise in spirit and in truth. We hear that, but like I said, I don't really think that we understand the true meaning of that. That's why I said that you can't go into church and expect to get something out of it when you didn't put anything into it. The last part of that Holy Trinity, as you could call it, but PPP is purpose. And this is the one that I feel like we always want to skip to, we always want to get to, we always want to live in, but we don't use those two prior steps. Purpose is the final step after you've been prepared in your prayer and have been altered with an encounter with the presence of the living God. Yet even purpose is misunderstood and misconstrued by many people in society or people in church as well. See, even when walking in purpose, you have to prepare for each new level in prayer while in the presence. Because of preparation being in the presence, I'm now able to use a platform up here to enable people towards that presence as I walk in mine. Yeah, see, there are two huge issues with how we see purpose in our lives, in my opinion. David, can you bring up that picture of that tree real quick? So, for example, this tree, this is one of the big issues that I see. As you see, a tree has three parts. A tree has roots, a tree has the trunk, and it has the branches and the leaves. The tree and us receive things from each other. So the tree receives foundation and it receives grounding from the roots. Water also is absorbed by the roots. The trunk we get lumber from. That's how we're able to build houses, buildings, all of those things. The leaves and the branches is where we get fruit from. And I don't know if you were like me, but I couldn't climb trees when I was little. But I know I have friends that climb trees, and you may climb the tree to get to the fruit that's in the leaves and the branches, but if the roots and the trunk wasn't there, the fruit that's in the leaves and the branches would never exist. So the reason that prayer and presence are so important for us to get the purpose is because if we didn't prepare and we didn't enter the presence, we would never be able to reach the purpose. So the reason that tree means something to you is because when you look at it, for you to have a tree, you have to have three parts. For you to walk in purpose and for you to walk in destiny, there's three parts to that as well. We get it twisted thinking that purpose and destiny automatically means success and happiness. And this is the next point that I had, David. There's a difference between happiness and fulfillment, and there's a difference between success and alignment. See, worldly happiness is, we think about, it's a feeling of dopamine. It's a feeling of course, happiness, but it's temporary. Worldly happiness comes from, oh, we won a game. Oh, I have this friend group. Oh, we went out to this party. Oh, I have this car. I have this house. I have these clothes. I have these shoes. That's worldly happiness. But then we look at fulfillment, and there's a difference. There's a preacher named John Gray that I like to listen to. And he was talking about love in this one sermon. He said, love is what you do in spite of what you feel. And I like that because it fits here as well. Because even when we walk in purpose, you're not always going to be happy. When Jesus was up on that cross, I'd like to argue with anybody that says he was happy while he was up there. I don't think he was happy when he was having nails driven into his hands and nails driven into his feet. I don't think he was happy when they gave him a sponge that was filled with vinegar to shut him up from talking because they knew there was power when he spoke. See, Jesus wasn't happy upon the cross, but he was fulfilled because he was fulfilling his purpose. He was fulfilling God's purpose. I know we've heard about an even if faith where the three Hebrew boys said, even if God doesn't save us. Yet I want to add to it today. It says that we should have it in spite of faith. In spite of says that in spite of the fact that this moment doesn't evoke or elicit a feeling of dopamine or positive exhilaration or happiness, I'm fulfilled because the God in me is fulfilling a purpose. See, the reason that I feel like we should have this in spite of faith is because even when we're not happy, even when things don't look good, in spite of the fact that something's going on at home and there's tension at home, and when I get home I don't feel too good, in spite of the fact that things aren't going well at school and my friend group is crashing around me and it seems like there's nobody here for me, in spite of the fact that my grades are failing, in spite of the fact that the money doesn't look right for college, in spite of the fact that I get to church and I don't feel anything and I go home and I feel the same, in spite of the fact that I get up every morning, I don't know why I'm going to school, I don't know why around going to work and it doesn't feel right. In spite of the fact that I hear something from God and I feel like there's a calling on my life and I don't have the opportunity to fulfill it, I'm still going to walk it out because in spite of all those things, God is still fulfilling something within me. So I don't care about happiness. Forget happiness because I'm fulfilled because something that God put within me is being fulfilled as I walk through my life. So we shouldn't worry about happiness. Happiness is going to be temporary. Fulfillment is permanent. The next thing that I talked about was I said there's a difference between success and alignment. There's this false definition of success that the world forcibly places upon us, and it holds no value, honestly. I don't understand why we predicate success based on the amount of something that we possess or we obtain: money, houses, jewelry, likes, followers, friendships, whatever. We place value on a blue check mark by our name on an app to signal verification, yet we serve a God who calls the stars by name and still calls us by name as well. I would argue that that's verification enough. So this false idea of success that the world has for us, same thing with happiness. Happiness and success, they're both going to be temporary. Success can fall at any time. You can lose all the wealth you have at any moment. No matter how rich or how wealthy you are, we look at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these people that are extremely wealthy, that doesn't necessarily mean they're happy. To be honest, if you look at all these men and they're very powerful, most of them are divorced. The life isn't always happy just because you have success. But I can guarantee you the life is happy when you have alignment. Because godly alignment creates the pathway to divine opportunity. So alignment may not look like, oh, I work a job that gives me $1 million and I own a business and I have 3 houses and I can take trips, 4 or 5 week trips every month, and I have a bunch of cars and I have a bunch of jewelry and a bunch of clothes. But alignment does look like I get up every day and I'm happy for what I'm doing because I'm aligned with God, and now I have opportunities that are going to carry me through the rest of my life comfortably and peacefully. So that's why I said alignment creates the pathway to divine opportunity. The opportunity may not look like, and this is one thing, especially with missionaries. One of my friends, his parents are missionaries to Brazil, and people don't understand why you'd be a missionary because it doesn't make a whole lot of money, but it's alignment, it's divine opportunity. I bet you the missionaries are a lot happier than a bunch of the millionaires that live here in Memphis and that live here in the U.S. So alignment is going to bring you that fulfillment. Alignment and fulfillment will always beat out happiness and success. The last thing I want to talk about is specifically for us as a generation. A lot of people have said that our generation is doomed, that our generation is a bunch of kids who just know how to be on the internet. A lot of people have said that our generation has no good to it, that our generation is just going to continue to plummet, and our generation is going to mess up the world, that there's no good in our generation, and I don't believe that. I feel like, as I said, that I'm standing on a platform and I can use my platform to will people towards their purpose. We all have a platform because we have social media, we have the internet. Why don't we use the platform that we have to will other people towards the purpose? So I feel like it doesn't just have to be ministry. It doesn't just have to be missionaries. It doesn't just have to be preaching, singing, whatever it may be. We all have a platform. We all just have to understand and realize how we want to use it. A lot of us use our platform for various things, whether it is, as I said, getting likes, followers, and friendships, whether it's trying to find relationships, whether it's trying to find money, whether it's trying to buy different products off Instagram, whatever it is. Use your platform for something that is ultimately going to bring. I would say this: we all think about at a funeral, people say good things about you, right? That's what you would desire. Why don't we live our lives to where the platform that we have at our funeral, people commend us for the way that we used our platform because it changed everyone around us. Our generation isn't doomed, and I don't want any of y'all to believe that. I know that, and I spoke about this, our generation has the highest rate of depression and suicide out of any generation in world history. I want to break that generational curse, and I want to break that cycle. I believe that God placed something in our generation with this technology that we have that generations before us and generations after us even won't have the opportunity to have and to be able to use. So the way that we use our platform and the way that we go about our daily life, the way that our generation attacks the world, I feel like we can change everything around us. As Pastor AT talked about in the chat, and I don't want to just change City Youth. I don't want to just change Memphis. I don't want to just change Chattanooga. I want to change the world. But our overall have an entire generation of people who have the same platform and the same voice that I do. All of y'all do. Y'all might not get up here and preach, but I promise you, all of y'all get on your phone and text somebody. All of y'all get on your phone and comment on somebody's picture. All of y'all get on your phone and like somebody's picture. All of y'all get on your laptop and look up YouTube videos and look at Netflix. Why don't y'all spend 30 of those minutes? Y'all look at Netflix tweeting out or putting a post on Instagram or a post on your Snapchat story saying just to encourage somebody. Why don't you just sit those 30 minutes that you spend watching that one episode on Netflix that you binge watching, that one show that you looked at 5 million times? Why don't you just take that 30 minutes for that one episode and sit in the spirit and pray? And when he gives you somebody to talk to or somebody to say something to, just text them and say, hey, how are you doing? It's that simple. It doesn't take you getting up here and preaching a entire sermon. It doesn't take you getting up here and singing your heart out. Just text somebody and ask them how you doing. Just text somebody and say, have a good day. It's not that hard. But the platform that we have, we don't use it correctly, and that's why we don't see change. That's why people say our generation is doomed, not just because, oh, bad things happen with our generation. Well, we have this platform, we have this technology, we don't use it correctly. That's why it gets taken away from us, but we're not even going to talk about that. And I'm pretty much done. I didn't have a long sermon tonight. It was just a lot that I had to honestly get off my chest, and I felt in my spirit. But the last thing that I want to do, I just want to ask everybody to stand real quick. And if everybody can close your eyes as well. I just felt in my spirit this morning when I got up, as I was talking about with breaking off this generational curse and using our platform and our technology correctly. And I'm raising my hand and I'm agreeing with you all on this as well. But if you want to take these 3 steps, preparation, presence, and purpose, as well as to use your platform and your voice correctly, and you want to elevate your life, and you want to go to the places that God would have you to go and reach the people that God would have you to reach, I would just like you to raise your hand. Like I said, I'm right here with you. It's not an embarrassment. It's nothing to chastise you or to get on to you about. This is just us being honest. There's this guy named Reggie Dab, and I like what he said. He said, if you're going to be real, you're going to be real. And the second thing that I want to just put out there, I couldn't do this and not ask this question, but if you don't have a relationship with God and you would like to renew your relationship with God because you feel like you've fallen away or you've been walking away, I just want you to raise your hand as well. Once again, this isn't a thing to talk bad on you, to chastise you. This is just us being real, and everybody's a family here. The last thing I want to do